Hi, all. I'm Cullen Haynes, and welcome to Law Live. It's Casual Friday, obviously, today, because I'm coming out with a bonus episode to talk to my very dear friend. 30 years in law, barrister, author, presenter, director. The list goes on. I don't know if there's anything this man can't do. Many of you will know Darren Mort, of course, been on the show a couple of times, and I thought I'd bring him back to not only celebrate his new book, Isla's Song, but Millie versus his new film that he's actively fundraising for at the moment. Could you please, mate, welcome Darren? How are you, Daz?
Hey, Cullen, how are you, mate?
Always a pleasure to speak with you and hear your dulcet tones.
Now, I see you said it's Casual Day Friday. I just want to let the viewers know that I don't normally hang out in this gear casually.
No, that's it.
I've just got back from court, and I thought this was a safer bet than my scrappy T-shirt that's under this gear.
No, it looks really good. It suits you well. But there are some hidden unspoken rules that you're not allowed to go out and have coffee in it, eat in it, shake hands in it. Is that all true, or is it all lies and false propaganda?
Look, I think that was 18th century mode, Cullen, just quietly. I think as long as you're respectful, polite, and you're not creating any traumas out there in society, then you're okay. Yeah.
I think so too. I think so too.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah, yeah. I've commented on this before. That background of yours is quite striking in your office. It always captures my eye.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's. I think I've told you before. It's an artist mate of mine, Andrew Southall, and he is an incredible colorist, and he does these amazing works. He's quite elderly now. He's in his late 70s, but he just produces a lot of stuff still. You know, he's an amazing guy. He actually was a contemporary of Brett Whiteley's, who's a very famous Australian artist. And Brett Whiteley, yes, of course, got that museum is it Newtown or Darlinghurst in Sydney, which I've been to, which is fantastic. But yes, yeah, so Andrew's a contemporary of Brett's, and they studied together. And yeah, he's a very talented man. I love artists; they're so clever, aren't they? Just amazing.
Oh, that whole right brain mind, it's so incredible. Where does it come from? How do they do it? My goodness. But you're an artist yourself. Obviously, you got the law on the left, and you've come out with your new book, Isla's Song. How does that feel, my friend?
It feels pretty exciting, I must say. I can't believe I've written this book, because I wrote the first sentence in it and I thought, what the hell am I doing this for? And 115,000 words later, here I am. So
here you are. Absolutely.
Very excited. So I needed some accountability. So Dr. Google helped me search someone very reputable, Gail Tagaro. She's a book coach. And I sat down with her every week. I'd submit 3,000 words. Every week she'd go through them, do a slight edit. And then at the end of the book, she did 2 very detailed edits. I did a couple, and then I was lucky enough to get a publisher on board, Wilkinson Publishing, who have published the book, which I'm very grateful for.
Incredible. And shout out to Gail Tagaro. If you're not connected, be sure. Yeah,
absolutely. So look, it was, I can say this, it was one of the best experiences I've had in my life, which is a big thing, apart from having kids, of course, and getting married and all that. It was just a great experience, yes, sitting down in the cafe 3 to 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon and sitting down with my bowl of popcorn and watching the characters do what they do in front of me and just writing away. It was fantastic.
Amazing. I've got the link into Gail there if anyone wants to connect with her, because I've heard great stories, not only from you, but when you did that presentation down in Melbourne last month, many people were inspired not only by Isla's Song, but to maybe write their own story that's inside them as well, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was a really, really good experience. Yeah, couldn't recommend it highly enough. Yeah, and just the research too, Cullen, doing the research back in the 1950s and 60s of Melbourne and France and, the Orkney Islands where Isla ends up living, growing up as a child. Just doing all that research was just, it was just eye-opening. You know, when you get on Discovery Channel and you see all the history and all that. It's fascinating stuff. It really interests me. So it was a great journey.
I bet. And also too, you mentioned to me when we first sat inside, where were we? We would have been in the Sheraton last September. And you were sitting down and saying, Cullen, I'm writing this book, Isla's song, and every chapter is going to be a Joni Mitchell song or lyric.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to dive deeper into that. Why Joni Mitchell? And why is the book structured like that?
Well, the main character in the book grows up to become a very famous singer-songwriter with a leaning towards folk music. Joni Mitchell is iconic as a folk singer, but she's also, her music is iconic of that era, that 1960s era of, love and happiness and poetry. And so I've got a place down at Phillip Island in Melbourne, and I'd get on my bike and I'd put on her soundtrack and listen to her music, and the songs would become relevant to certain chapters. And my very first session with Gail Tagaro, she said, okay, Darren, we're going to name all the chapters in the book. So it wasn't that hard for me, because for the last 3 years, I've been having Joni Mitchell music in my head. So I was able to go through the book chronologically and how I wanted to set out the chapters and name each chapter after a Joni Mitchell song. She had so many hits: The Circle Game, Yellow Taxi, just so many, The River, just beautiful music, really beautiful poetic music. Everyone knows Both Sides Now from that show, Lovely, with that beautiful scene with Emma Thompson, where she walks in the room, doesn't say a word because she finds out her husband's been having an affair. And you've got that beautiful music of Both Sides Now coming over. So all those emotions and the poetry just help carry the book along, together with the music of the day. And I hope one day, Cullen, it gets made into a film, because it's very filmic, the book, and it'd make a great story.
Of course it would. I can already see Stan and Netflix knocking down the door to make it. Yeah, Darren, I think that's going to be amazing.
I hope so.
But I would encourage people. It's now 12:41. We're 10 minutes into the live stream here. It is Friday the 13th. But we are live. Any questions for this great man, put them in the comments. LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. We're streaming live, and we'll be able to ask them in real time. Now, Millie Versus is another project you're working on. You're actively fundraising for this. Would love to know what Millie Versus is, what the story is, and why it's such a powerful, project to raise money for and share.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Cullen. So Millie Versus is part of a trio of films we want to do. The first one we did was Tommy. And Tommy is about a contact changeover. People probably know a lot about Tommy, but Tommy has been an amazing film. And this week we've just sealed the deal with America. It's now embedded in the American system, court system. So it's part of the high conflict model. And that's the aim that the charity that I co-founded, To Be Love Network, that's the aim of this charity, to produce resources so that parents and children can use those resources to better their parenting, to bring the focus back to kids, to give kids a voice. So Millie is a little bit happier than Tommy. Millie's parents actually do make a real effort to try and get on for Millie. And Millie's a little girl. She's a bit like Pippi Longstocking. She's a bit of a you're probably not allowed to say tomboy anymore, but she loves playing sport on the boys' teams, and she's got a lot of mates who are boys, and she's a good little kid, but she still takes on board her parents' disharmony or when there's conflict, and it takes her to magical places. She's got two puppets, Freddie and Daisy, a dog and a cat, and those puppets take her on magical journeys. So there's a lot of fantasy in Millie, which helps her come to terms with her conflict. And there's a huge pie fight at the end, which the parents get involved in. So Millie really flags two important issues. One is the power of children having peer groups and the support of those peer groups as kids, being able to talk to each other. And secondly, it talks about the fact that parents can learn something from their children and that they should listen. And when I say listen, they should really listen to what their kids have got to say. You know, sit down. I think I've said to you on times before, there is no better counselling device than the dinner table at night. And you've really got to be able to sit down with your kids and be able to have open conversations. And that's where you find out most things as parents. So that's what Millie's about. Millie, I think Tommy cost us about 110,000 to put on, submarine included. Millie, with all the overlays and the fantasy and the CGI, it's probably going to cost us about $180,000, something like that. We've raised about 30 so far in the last couple of weeks, which is great. But we're really looking for corporates to come on board, those sort of people that want to associate with a charity that is child-focused and is putting out something there for the betterment of the community. Because we all want our kids to grow up as really solid members of the community, kids that are contributing, kids that are socially balanced, emotionally balanced. And these sort of resources will help those kids. The research done in the United States just recently has indicated that Tommy, for example, the film, doesn't change the way people feel, but it does change the way people behave. And so that's a really positive thing. So we're happy to get these people, these corporates on board to share their experience with us, to be involved in our projects and to, I suppose, to partake by way of a social conscience to get involved with our particular projects which support children. Now, the website, which I think you just put up before, Millie Versus, yeah, that's the one. It's got an investors portal on it. The password for the investors portal is Millie with a capital M 1234. That's the one. You're jumping ahead of me there, Colin. And people who are interested can come on board. There's various stages in that investment in terms of what you get for what the bang you get for your buck. And it'd be so good to have people on board who are like-minded and who the sort of stuff that we do really resonates with, like yourself, you know. So really always appreciate your support, Colin.
Of course. And you'd encourage them to reach out to you directly, Darren, as well, Darren at darrenmort.com.au.
Absolutely. Yeah. And look, LinkedIn's been an amazing platform because we've already had a lot of people approach me, which is amazing. And we did an event with Cullen viewers not long ago, which Cullen would have spoken about, Tommy, with heady up at Justice Family Law. And it was such an incredible event, wasn't it, Cullen?
It really was. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it was
harrowing, in fact.
Yeah, it was so good. And it was a great opportunity to network, and people were there because they shared in our values and things. And I just thought, you know, there's so many people out there in the community that want to do something, but they're not sure what to do. So I'd invite those people to get in contact with me or yourself, and I can certainly direct them the right way, because at To Be Loved, we're really open-armed in terms of inviting people into our space and helping us. And I might say, just for the viewers and people who are thinking about investing, we do not make 1 cent from our charity. It is all pro bono, right? Anytime myself or board members donate is absolutely free. We do not charge. So that's really important. And we're registered for DGR status, so people can get a tax deduction as well. So just, you know, really important things. But it is important, you know, the messaging is really important, that kids matter.
And you said that many times before about really listening and being engaged in that Do you not think that happens with parents when they're separating, or do you think that the child's voice comes last, or what are you seeing?
Look, more and more I realise, Cullen, that when parents are separating, usually it's one party is tired of the marriage, doesn't believe it's got any future and wants to get out. And if that means they've had an affair or whatever it does, it really doesn't matter. The fact is that's what they've thought. The marriage is over. That thought is usually not communicated to the other party till much later on down the track. So you get a situation where one party's at about the 80-metre sprint going into an 100-metre race, and the other party's still at the starting gate, at the starting blocks. So that person at the starting blocks is undergoing extreme trauma as a result of what that person's heard. The person at the 80-metre mark is still suffering from trauma. That trauma is like a weeping wound, and that trauma is continually picked at until the whole event's over, until they both finish the 100-metre sprint. Unfortunately for children, whilst their parents are suffering that trauma, they're in the middle of all this and often forgotten or sidelined or not listened to. And that little kid really is going through as much trauma as their parents. They're like little radars. I mean, you know yourself with little Benji, he's there and you're in a happy household, but he picks up on things. He might, hear dad laughing and he laughs, or mum laughing or whatever. They're like little radars, little transistor radios they are, and they pick up on things. So you can imagine in a household where it isn't happy and the child is subject to trauma, it's a terrible situation. So in answer to your question, no, I think kids do experience a lot of trauma, and part of that trauma is that neither parent has the time or the energy or the emotional nuance sometimes to be able to sit down with the child and explain things to the child in a childlike manner, in a child-friendly manner. And that's the problem, you know. There's clear research that's come out of the Australian Institute of Family Studies about children do not want to be discounted in separations. They want their views to be put forward, particularly as they get older. They do not want to be simply sidelined and their views discounted. They want to be heard. They don't necessarily want the courts or their parents to do what they want, but they want to be considered. And I think that's the thing. We talk about families. I mean, what constitutes a family? And if you've got a child, that child's part of the family, just like mum and dad are. So they deserve to be listened to. They deserve to have a view. They deserve to be considered.
No, it's and the obviously we're going back in time here, but the impetus for making the movie, Tommy, and it was originally a book, and you were telling me that it was actually based on the name has changed, of course, but a real little boy who created a fictionalized character to cope with his mother and father's separation.
It does happen, and that little boy used to see blue kangaroos, not tigers. So it does happen, and even the fight scene between the parents and their partners at the end of Tommy, it just alarm bells rang in my head last week. I was at one of the courts, and that actual scene replayed for real in court in terms of what happened at a changeover. So it really does happen, and people, we all live in our little bubbles and we put our kids in cotton wool balls, but when it all turns to muck and children are exposed in the way Tommy was in that film, it's quite savage on the child. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's next? Obviously, fundraising for this film, is that the big project that you're getting behind right now? You're doing so much there, Darren.
Yeah, no, it is, Cullen. The big project's Millie. We want to start filming that next year. We've got a really good cast lined up. We've got the same producer as for Tommy. We have an incredible director of photography from Sydney. He does a lot of work for the Opera House. He's got some crazy, amazing ideas. I've also got a book, Millie and a Magic Puppet Show, coming out, which will be also published by Wilkinson Publishing. We've just organised a illustrator for the book. I wrote the book a little while ago, and that's just going to be a beautifully illustrated book. I'm really looking forward to that. And that book will be very representative of the film as well. So they're just extra resources. Then down the track, what we've got planned is another film called Sammy. Sammy will be a little Vietnamese boy. I want to throw in some cultural issues into this particular area that I deal with. And I think that'll be important too. So the three of them will sit together like a triptych, I suppose, and provide some really solid resources for families out there.
Very good, very good. And obviously, Tommy, people can watch on Apple, if I'm not mistaken. I was just looking at the website.
Yeah, it's on Apple, and people can look at that and use it as they deem fit. I was on the phone last week to a lady who rang me from Tasmania wanting to license Tommy, and she's been using Apple iTV for a client. So Catholic Care in Tasmania use Tommy, as does Berry Street. And there's all these organisations that use the film that I don't even know about because they don't tell me, because they just go on Apple iTV and use it. But they've had some fantastic results from using these resources. And if people come on board with Millie too, it's really quite exciting, because we submit the film to film festivals so people can rocket around Australia and attend these film festivals and be promoted as an investor. So it's really widely spread to the audience at large. They get a lot of promo through it, a lot of marketing plus. And it's just an exciting thing to be involved with. You know, you go to these film festivals on the red carpet and you rock up there, and it just makes you really proud. And I should imagine when investors come on board, it would make them very proud to be associated with the sort of products that we produce.
I bet. And I really want to show people the trailer of Tommy if we can. So what I'll do is I'll let me see if I can bring it up for people. Here we go. Share with the sound. Here is the trailer of Tommy, everyone. I get chills every time I see that, Darren.
I must have seen it over 100 times and it still gives me chills. It still triggers me. If I watch the whole thing, it still triggers me. It's just, I suppose it's just really hard to see a little child in the middle of that conflict without a voice. And that's the actual power of the film, that he doesn't have a voice. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would highly recommend, obviously, pick up the book if you can. I think it's available on Amazon, Dimmicks. Your new book, Isla's Song, obviously is available in Dimmicks and online. And please, any major corporates that are wanting to put their financial weight behind a great charity that's supporting children, then Millie Versus is a great project to do so. Just again, the website for Millie Versus is on the screen here. Millie-versus.com, and there is a portal for investors, Millie 1234 there as well. And if you want to get in contact with barrister, mediator, author, filmmaker, director Darren Mort, it's Darren at darrenmort.com.au. But what's the plan for the weekend, Darren? What can we expect in your circle of influence, mon ami?
Well, catching up with a couple of psychologist mates of mine tonight, and tomorrow I might go and see a play, which a couple of my mates are in for the Melbourne Fringe Festival. I've got a rehearsal tomorrow for a play I'm doing called Madrina, plug for Marty Monster, which is going to be at La Mama, I think at the end of October, 27th of October or thereabouts. We're doing a play read. Marty does some fantastic writing. He's very comedic, but he also touches on social issues as well. So looking forward to doing that with my cobbers. And then Sunday, I'm flying up to your part of the world, Cullen, because
you are.
Yeah, there's a lovely lady up there, Valerie Norton, who is a family dispute resolution practitioner. She is my mentor, and I've got 1 day left with her, and then I get the gold seal of approval, and I'm anointed a family dispute resolution practitioner as well. So she's been
very
amazing.
good, exciting things. Well done, mate.
Yeah. So
Kudos.
what about your weekend? What's happening in Groovetown?
What are we doing? I think Madam and I are going to take Benji out and get some photos done. We've got some new bookshelves out the back. We've redone the library, so want to get there's these memory boards that you can get, like pieces of wood with the pictures on them. So we're doing some of that, and maybe the beach on the Sunday, and take him out into the beautiful Narrabeen Park parade, which is a beautiful walk along the water with the nice parkland there. So it's absolutely gorgeous. If you're coming up to Sydney, highly recommend the Narrabeen walk.
I'll check that out, and it won't be too long before Benji's on these Hollywood films, I should imagine. He's quite a cute little kid, I must say.
Oh my goodness, he's definitely a special little boy. Madam and I caught him. She came out and filmed, and he was like literally lying on his back with a book in his hand, and it wasn't 17th century Proust or anything like that. It's don't touch a koala's nose, but it was so interesting. He had it up like this. It was just so bizarre. He's like a little Benjamin Button or a person. Yeah. You are quite right. They are absorbing everything.
So many beautiful pictures of you guys on social media platforms. So enjoy him while he's still young, because they grow up very quickly.
I will indeed, mon ami. I will indeed. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people get in touch? Is LinkedIn still where you're hanging out?
LinkedIn is still my best place of choice to hang out, or that email address you put up before, darren@darrenmort.com.au. Open arms, love to listen to people. Any assistance or contributions for what we're doing at the charity would be pure blessing.
Absolutely. And To Be Loved Network is the name of the charity behind the scenes. You founded it there, Darren. And anyone who wants to look in more into the To Be Loved Network, I'm bringing it up here. Be sure to go to tobeloved.au/about, and you can learn more about all the wonderful things Darren and the To Be Loved Network are doing. Thanks so much for joining, everyone. Thank you again, Darren.
Thanks, Cullen. You're a legend.
Speak soon.